All right. Thank you and good evening and welcome to the Monmouth City Council meeting for Tuesday, March 19th. I hereby call the meeting to order and ask Phyllis Bowman, our city recorder, for the roll call, please.
Counselor Belts?
Here.
Here. Present.
Here.
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 I am present. And Councilor McKeel, would you lead us in the flag salute, please, this evening? We have a brief meeting this evening with just a couple of items because then we will be moving into executive session to begin discussions and initial review of our city manager candidates. So we will start off this evening with our consent calendar. That consists of the minutes of our last meeting, which was March 5th. Any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Mayor Kuntz passed a little note to Phyllis about the way I phrased one thing, and I think she's got it already. It was a simple Scrivener's change. So,
You're correct, Counselor Oberst. I changed rainy to rainy.
right.
The-
It's not a rain collector, it's a rainy collector.
Yeah, which is a brand
Because
name.
it rains a lot here, but not enough to supply our water needs.
And with that change, would you like to move to approve the minutes?
I would love to move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Oberst, for the motion and Councillor Belts for the second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Great, thank you. And that brings us to the public comments section of our meeting. This time is reserved for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda as scheduled for this evening. We ask that speakers limit their remarks to 3 minutes, and we do have a couple of comments tonight. So I would like to call Carol Bunsey up to the table, and if you can give us your name, where you're from, and what you'd like to address us about. Thank you. And we'll have you turn on the mic there too, so she'll get that for you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Carol Bunsey. I live in West Monmouth, and I am part of the steering committee for the West Monmouth Neighborhood Association, but I'm speaking tonight as an individual. And I want to speak about rumors that are floating around again about a fairly large transitional shelter for individuals who are homeless in Monmouth. Haven't heard it from here, but we're hearing it from a lot of other places. Personally, I am certainly not against places for unhoused individuals to live. I think it's needed, it's necessary. My objection is to the application of a city model to a rural area. I know that Commissioner Gordon said in his presentation that the best model would be that, but it's not economically feasible. But from what I saw this last year, because of that refusal to look at other types of shelter or housing, nothing happened. I know there's the little group in Independence or Edge of Monmouth, but anyway, I know the city has limited input due to the governor's orders, but I do believe that sharing of more information could be very helpful to us. My concerns are in part based on the experiences our neighborhood had last summer. Without a shelter actually going in, we experienced some of the side effects that can occur near a place where a shelter or large facility might go. And to finish up, I'd like you to consider this. I know a number of you live in the Edwards addition. Picture, if you will, that a 40-bed shelter was going into the vacant lot to the south. And knowing that many of the occupants would have mental health and addiction issues and would therefore probably have a social network that comes with and hangs out that are not actually in the shelter. Picture that some of these folks camping, hanging out near the shelter, leaving trash. Imagine walking your dog or taking your kids or grandkids out and finding a few people with a large, menacing-looking dog hanging out for days at a time right near where you walk. Picture finding a lot of folks that you've never seen before wandering through your neighborhood, checking things out, sitting on your parking strip and smoking and arguing. We didn't even have the shelter approved in our area, but the information about it coming caused some of those things to happen. We experienced all those things. Now, you might say, compared to not having a home, maybe minor, but compared to what happens to the climate of a neighborhood when these things happen, it can be pretty devastating. What I would like, I don't know what's going to happen, but what I would like you folks to think about as our town goes forward is, if this was happening to you folks actually, what kinds of information, how would you want to be informed as citizens of Monmouth so that you could perhaps have some input? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. And Barbara Meyer. Same thing, introduce yourself, please, and your topic.
I'm supposed to hit something, right? Oh, it's on? All right. I'll just stand up or I won't be able to see you. Short and I'm going to read mine to save time. Mine's not a question, mine's a request. Basically, it is, I would like to request that you add a brief summary of the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance monthly meeting to the Monmouth City Council meeting on the third Tuesday of the month. The Alliance meets on the first Thursday of the month, so there wouldn't be a chance to do it before the third Tuesday. Councilor Lopez, I know, is a voting member of the Alliance, and I would think that perhaps you could add a little piece to your council duties at the end of the meeting to let us know what's being addressed at the Alliance. Things like what decisions are being considered, what information regarding distribution of money or applications for money are being run through that body, and what positive or negative effects those might have on our rural county and our city. There are lots of ideas out there on how to spend the tons of money that are floating around, and not all of them are good ideas. Some are good, some are bad. Some are meant for large cities, some are meant for rural areas. That's what I'd ask. I think that this fits in with the council's value statement. For those maybe who haven't heard it, you say, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, we believe that community engagement is the heart of a successful city governance. We value what every individual brings to help move our city forward. We build strong partnerships, empower community, and proactively share Monmouth's story. That's a great idea. Meaningful community engagement requires access to communication and engagement by the city that is incisive, thoughtful, transparent, proactive, and clear. Active, informed, and civic engagement, which is what I'm asking for, I think, creates the most effective public policy. Our work results in the community believing that they are heard, understood, and their concerns are addressed. Trying to wade through all the stuff that's happening out there with regard to rent relief, transitional housing, keeping people in their homes. It's a weighty thing. I've been trying to read through the Alliance's minutes, And until this evening, just before we came over, those minutes were not available. The only ones that were available were the January minutes. So timely response by our community isn't going to be possible if we don't get a little update from maybe the people who are there. Anyway, that's my request. Thank you for hearing me, and it was nice talking to you.
Thank you very much. All right. That takes us actually to our business agenda this evening. As I mentioned, we have a fairly brief agenda. And our first item up is, well, our only item up is in regards to our audit for the 22-23 fiscal year. And we have our annual presentation by our auditors, and then we will discuss a response. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And if you will introduce yourself, and I think
So
everybody got a copy of the audit, at your stations. Okay, thanks.
So for the record, my name is Peter Gelser. I'm a partner at Kuntz, Blasquez and Associates. Our Fred Kuntz has no relation that we know of to your mayor, and he's also actually retired as well. So, but I've been your auditor for a number of years now. Sometimes you may remember Sheila, who's the other one. So we kind of, both of us are heavily involved with your audit. I actually write your financials, and so that's what I'm here to present. And I apologize in advance. My brain is still very much thinking about taxes. So forgive me if I start talking 1040s or something to you. So overall, we're doing this presentation a little bit later than normal. This is partly with the transition of your financial manager. Some of the information that we normally receive, the back and forth took longer. Plus, we also had some staffing issues in our office, which delayed the audit, and I apologize for those. Hopefully next year we'll get back into the normal pattern of trying to get it out before the end of December. Financially, the city's records look really good. I have no real concerns. Your audit presentation, it's an unmodified opinion. Numbers look good. I always kind of look at the general fund, which is your operation budget for the city, and it's partly skewed a little bit because of some of the city hall expenditures are going in and out for this new lovely building you have. But overall, it's looking really strong, and I don't see any funds that give me a heartache or concerns. There's a little bit of operational grants for the transit trolley and things like that. So those revenues may be going away, but on your day-to-day activities, things are looking good. The other big item is there's a lot of interest revenue, and that is going to fluctuate. So just be aware of that. In terms of the financials themselves, I don't have concerns to highlight to you. I'm more than willing to go through lots of pages if that's your direction you want to go. So feel free to ask questions. The two items we have in the letters are not big concerns, but they are worth highlighting to you. There is one related to grant tracking, and that really reflects the fact that Janet, when she left, had a lot of things that she was rushing to get done, and I don't think grants were being tracked on a regular basis. I think he was getting into a habit of doing them kind of in preparation for the audit rather than on a quarterly or monthly schedule. And it caused some back and forth for us to try to figure out what those grant receivables, deferred revenues, and so forth were really supposed to be. So I think it's just important to be mindful of that. And I know I've been talking a lot with Susie about this, and I think she has a plan in place. So I have no long-term concerns about it. I think it was just a kind of a hiccup with everything that was going on. And the fact that there's a lot more grants in the last 2 years that required some tracking, and a lot of it was deferred. So it was not a quick cash in kind of scenario. It was a lot of, we receive money, is it really for this fiscal year, is it for the next one or the next one? And so that I think is going to go away even so. The second item in the letter is something we have on probably 90% of our audit clients, and it's talking about the fact that this book in front of you has a lot of disclosures, and it's really hard for a city to have the staff in place to kind of write everything here. And there's a lot, and the Government Accounting Standards Board has implemented kind of principles or standards year after year to kind of cause this to grow. You know, GASB 68 and 75, which is related to your PERS and OPEB, caused 25 pages in your book. And now they added leases and subscription-based technology agreements and added more pages. So it's getting more and more complex. And I think it's just a highlight the fact that we needed to write the report just to make sure all those disclosures are written correctly. It's not a real concern at all in my mind. We've had clients that have had this for the last 10 years. The state recognizes that it's a big task to write a report like this, and they actually have laws or rules in place to allow it. The reason it's a concern is always when we are auditing and writing the financials both together. That's an independence concern. We have steps in place in our office to alleviate that concern, but it's still a risk. And so that's why it's in the letter. I wouldn't be surprised if it continues to be in your letter for future years. It's just a common occurrence with the relay GASB is growing. It's unfortunate, but that just, I love it if we get GASB to stop creating standards, but I don't have any control over that. So. Is there any questions, concerns, anything you want me to highlight?
So I think, again, that is in reference to what is called the governance letter, right? The one that is to let us know at a higher level what they might find that is concerning. And as you say, what is stated there with regards to sort of the control systems and these GASBs is commonly found in all of us. We just don't have full-time accounting staff. And this truly is the CPA Full Employment Act board. And unfortunately, most CPA firms are short-staffed. So not only are we would have to hire a lot of additional finance staff in order to be able to do this ourselves, but even getting, working with our partners is tough. So none of this is particularly unusual at this time. The grant tracking obviously is interesting that it hasn't come up in the past, because by the time you got here, then Janet probably had it all figured out. So just kind of catching that. And I think Susie will be visiting with us about the plan she has in place to make those corrections. But were there questions about that letter or about anything else you saw in the audit?
Peter, thank you. In your report, the February 15 letter, relative to the grant tracking, you said, you indicate there that you recommend that grant activity be tracked and recorded as it occurs. Is that contemporaneously? Is that monthly? Is that quarterly? What do you mean by track it when it occurs?
Yeah, I mean, ideally you would do it as you receive it. But for some of these smaller grants, I don't think it's reasonable to do that. So even a quarterly review would be more than sufficient. Yeah.
So as it occurs, it's not exactly what would be acceptable. I'm trying to get a sense of this when we get to the solution.
Okay. So let me put it this way. In ideal world, as it occurs would be what you would want to do. That's accounting rules. I think we all live in the real world where that's not reasonable based on staffing and all the things going on. And also grants can take some time to figure out, you know, are you going to spend the money this year? What's really going on? So a quarterly review can really help kind of get a sense of, you know, what's going on and make sure that they're recorded correctly. What we don't want to have is a scenario where you're at June 30th and you have to go back for the whole year and kind of get a sense of what happened.
Yeah. Okay, that's much what I anticipated. And then on the second issue, and after you said what you said, it makes a little bit more sense to me, but I'm flummoxed by that paragraph, you know, on the second page of that talks about, starts with auditing standards require us to assess, et cetera. Am I correct when I sort of winnow that down, that because you people assist in putting it together, that creates a significant deficiency?
Yes, that's the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Realistically, it becomes an independence issue where we are kind of reviewing our own work.
That's my concern,
Right.
is you're doing work and then auditing that work.
Right. And so the key there is we need a couple of different scenarios. You have to have staff that can understand and recognize everything in this report, and you do, in my belief. The second item is that we in our office have to have enough staff that we can have someone who's not involved with the audit and the financials review it all and make sure they agree with what we're presenting. And we have both of those things in place. So it's really making sure that, you know, I'm writing the report and I do review it multiple times, but I'm not the only one who's reviewing it, and making sure that other people who have the skills necessary to understand it all can review it.
When we do our contract with you to do the audit, do you guarantee that you've got that third party, even though albeit within your firm, to provide that degree of separation, or is that based on availability?
So I don't think it's in the contract, but we've always had a second partner so that will not be involved with the audit and be able to do that review. And I don't see a scenario where we would not have that. Our firm is large enough that one partner could not do all the work.
Sure.
Sorry, John. Do you also have, I mean, there are standards for your profession as well, and it seems like you have sort of your own audit where you have to assert your independence from the work you prepare, and you are judged on that by sort of your own outside auditors. Is that?
So there's two elements there. You have a peer review procedure. You know, they go and check all of our processes and make sure it's reasonable. So I think the thing I want to mention, Don, is there was one here.
Did your mic go off? I'm sorry, because I think if I got on, John was.
Hello?
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry. So there's 1 year where the second partner was out with illness. And so we hired a third parties as our second reviewer and made those arrangements internally and got approval from the city. for that standard. So we do have a fallback in place if a partner is not available. And I forgot to mention.
Well, I appreciate your recognition of the significance of that and have high confidence that your standards will drive you to make sure you have that degree of separation and independence, as you put it. So I guess that's all I need right now, but so thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? All right. Oh, go ahead.
I wanted to thank you for all the work you did, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for bringing up that Susie will be informing us of what the plan is to move ahead. That was my question, so thank you for answering that.
That is our next piece of business. So, all right. Thanks, Peter, so much for coming out.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.
And Susie Marston, our finance director, is here to review the next steps that are actually required by the Secretary of State, the response that we have to give, and as a council, we have to approve.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So thank you, Peter, for being here to present our financial report for fiscal year ending 2023. So you guys have the letter dated February 15th that notes the two deficiencies that Peter talked to you about. State law requires that the city council adopt a corrective action plan to address the deficiencies that were noted in that letter. So I prepared a resolution for you to consider, and the exhibit attached to the resolution is our corrective action plan to address these deficiencies. Peter talked about what they mean. I will talk to you about what the plan of action going forward is going to be. So for grant tracking, I'm working with staff to better organize our grants and be able to do a regular reconciliation to make sure that we're recording when we should. As far as the recording goes, it happens basically when the transaction occurs. So I'm comfortable with that. I think regular reconciliations is important just to make sure you're on track. And like Peter said, not save it till the end of the year to catch up. As far as the preparation of the financial statements, Peter did a much better job than I would talking about that. The plan moving forward is, I think, more of just recognizing what the issue is and knowing that that is a place where I can work towards proficiency in assisting more with this, but also recognizing that it's going to take time to get there. I do take comfort that it's common for this to happen among cities because we just simply don't have the finance staff with, the advanced skill set, I guess I'd put it. But the natural tendency in me is to want to fix it. And so that's what I'll work towards, but I know it's going to take time. So anyway. So this letter, state law requires that we submit this within 30 days of the audit being filed with the Secretary of State Audits Division. Upon your approval tonight, I'll submit the letter to the state tomorrow, so that it's in by Friday, March 22nd, which meets the 30-day deadline. So that concludes my report.
Okay, questions for Susie, Counselor Oberst?
This is more of a comment, and I guess really, Peter, this is maybe, I should have directed this to you, but I'll still just make this comment. And I see a deficiency that I hear 90% of cities get the same note. It strikes me as a pointless exercise to call that a deficiency, because apparently everybody's deficient. And Gatsby needs to sit back and look at that and question whether this is really a legitimate shortfall in the construction of these documents. If everybody relies on their auditor to help them construct extremely complex documents, then how can that be a shortfall if everybody's doing it? So I'll just, I don't know what the answer to that is, but it bothers me that we're, an uninformed citizen could look at this and say, oh, that must be something horrible. No, it's not. It's something that happens to almost every city in the state. So,
And school district.
oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and school districts, and who knows who else? Other public bodies, I'm sure. And so I would throw this in Gatsby's lap and say, really? And I'll just leave it at that.
Counselor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you very much for the wonderful presentations tonight. I have a question regarding item 1 on the plan of action, item 1 specifically sub-item B. So this is the significant deficiency grant tracking and the plan of action for that. The plan of action states the City of Monmouth will conduct reconciliations during fiscal years to ensure that appropriate and timely adjustments to grant receivables and deferred revenues are posted. It mentions reconciliations, so plural reconciliations throughout that year. I'm just thinking about how we would, as a council, track progress on this and looking for what a little bit more meat regarding what the actual plan of action is moving forward. I think I heard a moment ago proposed quarterly reconciliations. That seems to be a little different than what's stated here. And I just want to understand what exactly our plan is that we're implementing.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I guess it doesn't state it here, but in my mind, my intention is to do reconciliations at least quarterly to check in and make sure that everything's being recorded as it should.
And Madam Mayor, if I can add to that, that would be a city manager's responsibility to oversee the finance director and the work that's coming out of that department. So with that audit notation, we'll ensure that there is a process in place and that the departments are getting the information to the finance department so that they can do that reconciliation. And that's part of the new process that Susie's putting together.
Wonderful. That's very helpful to know. And I think that clarifies a lot regarding our actual plan and what we're committing to, right? Thank you.
Counselor Carey.
As I read that, and as I read the description of the deficiency, the plan of action sounds like doing what we've been doing. We're gonna record it during the fiscal year, and that's what we just got dinged for. And without making more work, but at the same time creating a bit of tension. And creating a document that the Secretary of State's going to look at and say, okay, those people are serious about this. I would suggest that, and I don't know how we get to it in the time we have, but that it be noted, as you stated, to be done, reconciliation to be done at least quarterly. And that would provide some meat to this. That would, to me, that would make it a stronger response. And there's all kinds of, this has been a wild year, 2 or 3 years for grants. So to keep track of any of it is important. But going forward, I think we need, that's best practices. Peter suggested that. I wouldn't say monthly, but you batch those on a quarterly basis, and that's forward progress. And it's identification that we're responding to the significant deficiency that we have. And I think that's too strong a word, frankly. It's a deficiency perhaps, but that's the language that we're saddled with. So if there could be a friendly amendment on that, I don't know how we get to that with this, but, and maybe there's no interest for that, but it's all well and good to say, yeah, well, we'll get on it, we'll work on it. Well, we're going to transition, the city manager position. And if you've got something there, to me, that would make it stronger.
Yeah, I could simply add it to read, the city of Monmouth will conduct reconciliations at least quarterly during fiscal years to ensure that appropriate and so forth.
You can accept that and make that part of the approval of the resolution. Yep.
You provided right there. That was fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the language is not in the resolution, but it refers the exhibit. So we would want to make sure that the exhibit reads the way we understand it in order to pass the resolution. Are there any other considerations for the exhibit?
Again, a little bit to the same, on the second one, if we move down to if we're ready to move to that, the preparation of the financial documents.
Sure.
The tone of that I didn't feel good about. I recognize, and I know a lot more now than I did when I read this afternoon, the workload that goes into that and the fact that it's fairly important, or fairly common rather. But, we've got a significant deficiency, and we're in a sense saying, we're just going to keep doing that until we're not. And I wonder if there's a way we could increase that language to say, and I understand that there's a lot to do, but, I'm working on it. I mean, I don't know, that doesn't strike me as being aggressive on that. Whether there's any benchmarks along the way that we could get to, or whether we could report on, Peter could report on that next go around, or I don't know. I don't know what it is, and it may just be but it's not like we're blowing it off. And, and given the category that it's in, significant deficiency, my tummy doesn't feel good about that. It could feel better if there was other ideas, but.
I see what you're saying, John, in B, and it says, we will continue to outsource these matters to external experts, which is really the recommended thing to do. And as we say, most cities and small governments and school districts do the same. As staff works towards proficiency in this area, you're suggesting that we have a more detailed plan of training or something you'd like to see to say, because then it says down below, ongoing staff will work towards proficiency. So
after you said it the way you said it, I don't know how we come up with something that we could, but again, we do need to provide some degree, and it may just be our understanding, some degree of tension that we are working towards a increased proficiency as we go. So I guess I'm fine with the language. I don't have a better idea. I don't like it, but I don't have a solution, so I'm going to shut up. I just think we all need to be cognizant of the fact that that's a problem we need to be working on.
And as you say, one way to find out is next year, we get a note saying staff prepared a greater deal of this. And that's the nice thing about having the same auditors a couple of years in a row is they know what the expectations are and we can see if there's improvement. But yeah, I think that is up to us to make sure our new city manager is making sure that's getting done, that opportunity for professional development, that opportunity for the time it takes to focus on really, I mean, having been to, I don't want to even think about how many sessions on GASB things and learning just enough to know that I can look at what the auditors do and say, okay, that's my understanding, but I would never write the damn things. I could never do the work to meet GASB standards. So I think that is something we can hold accountable for, but I'm not sure, like you say, there's a way to really pin it down. Councilor McKeel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm wondering if I may project Councilor Carey's thinking into mine. I'm wondering if it's item C, where the statement is staff will work towards proficiency on the matter to get to a place where required notes and disclosures can be provided to the auditor in the preparation of financial statement, but recognizes this may take some time. Appears to be like a backdoor kind of thing, but we're not really going to worry about it. And maybe, but recognizes this may take some time. We just don't need that because it starts at the beginning. We will work towards proficiency. It seems like, and maybe not a backdoor, but maybe like an excuse. We're going to work for proficiency, but we don't know how long it's going to take us to get there. So maybe just taking that out at the end.
So just say can be provided to the auditor in preparation of the financial statements, period. A thorough review of the financial statements will be conducted prior to the approval. Shall we say of the 23-24 audit? Because that would mean we would do a more thorough review this coming year after July of this year. That would just offer that. A thorough review of the financial statements will be conducted prior to the approval of the 23-24 audit. But that's still not, I mean, proficiency takes a long time. I appreciate taking the thing out because it is implied earlier. But just to say that we will feel confident that Susie has been able to really dig into it a little bit more by this time next year.
And if I may, I think a thorough review. Sorry, that just turned off. I'm going to play with this for a while.
Madam Mayor and the council, I do think it would be unreasonable to expect that for the 23-24 audit, that we would have that proficiency.
That's what we're saying, not the proficiency, but that she will conduct a review of it prior to approval for this year. Or we can say 24-25. I mean,
Because
That's more
theoretically, we
realistic.
could start the audit. I mean, this summer they'll start their field work already. And so she would already have to have that information. And I don't think that that's reasonable, given the volume of the statements that need to be included. In fact, I don't know that there would even be the opportunity to have the training on that by the time that we conduct the next audit. And so that's why the statement is in there that we're going to continue to work towards it, because it may be that there is no proficiency training available.
yeah, so no drop dead date. Counselor King.
I don't think anybody expects us to be done in one chunk. I think this is an incremental thing. And, so if in the report next time, there's, she reports, man, I worked my tail on this and did a lot more. I'm figuring it out because I'm figuring out how to get my time there. I think that would be good. I don't think there's any expectation that this will disappear next year, and perhaps never. But, I think, I sort of like, Carol's suggestion that we drop those last 7 words on that that a sentence there that said that, you know, we're going to work on that, but not, it's going to take some time. You know, it's got a little better tone to it.
Okay, I can remove that.
Anything else on this, Counselor Obers?
Just kind of going back to my earlier comment, I believe we have a finance department that's doing a fabulous job. What we're being asked to do in this corrective action is become a bunch of CPAs around here, and without the training to be CPAs, to be able to do this, when 90% of the cities in the state of Oregon don't do this at the level at which we're being asked to do it. And so to say, oh, and you got to get this done next year, or you got to get this done by time certain, strikes me as being overambitious. And to simply say, as Councilor McKeel suggested, we're going to work on this, but not saying and realize it's going to take some time. Because I think, in a way, that goes without saying. It's going to take some time to get the training necessary to do this without those 3 magic letters behind the names of half the people in our department, right? So I guess my only remaining question is, do we need a motion for this resolution that includes these 2 corrections, or can we just move passage of the motion as noted in?
Yeah, I think you can recognize these as conceptual amendments to the letter and, you know, move the resolution with the conceptual amendments incorporated. The record shows what they are.
And with that being the case, I would like to move approval of resolution 1982.
Second.
Thank you, Council. For the motion, yeah, turn off when you're done. For the motion, and Councilor Lopez for the second, to adopt resolution number 1982, a resolution to comply with ORS 297.4662 by adopting a corrective action plan to address significant deficiencies identified in the fiscal year 2022-23 City of Monmouth annual audit. And the corrective action plan attached here too is Exhibit 1 with the changes we've mentioned. And any further discussion on that? I will ask Phyllis for the roll call, please.
Counselor McKeel,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez,
Aye.
Counselor Carey,
Aye.
Counselor Belts. Aye. Counselor Oberst,
Yes.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you. We will have an executive session tonight.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Susie. Your first audit, yay! And thanks again, Peter, for showing up for that. We do have executive session this evening, and I think we will go ahead and if we can quickly do our reports, very quickly do our reports, then I think we will wait to go into executive session until we complete those. And I will read the script at that time. So I will start with the mayor's report, which is extremely brief, as I was, in fact, out of state for most of the past week. And so I will pass this on to those who have reports from our boards and commissions. Councilor Lopez. Councilor McKeel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to begin with a report from the Parks and Recreation Board. This report as well will be short because I too had a personal conflict with the meeting time of this particular meeting. The board did meet on the 13th of March at 6 p.m. and amongst other things discussed the Monmouth Recreation grants, that grant opportunity within our parks that is still ongoing. So I do want to be a booster for that opportunity to the community. The Parks and Rec Board has done a lot of work to streamline the application process and increase access to those wonderful funds that let our community determine what kinds of activities they want to see in their parks. Really wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And if you have ideas of things you'd like to see in your parks, I'd encourage you to look at that on our city website and apply for that. Let's make those ideas a reality and bring some more really cool things to our community this summer. I also have a report on the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance. I would like to point out for the record that I do regularly make these reports during the council comment section of each meeting. And at the most recent Homeless Alliance meeting, they did discuss the possibility of Church at the Park bringing part of their project back to Monmouth. I did ask some questions about that. They were unwilling to give, or not unwilling or unable to give additional information at that time. They did say that there was a potentiality for some kind of project in partnership with a building owner near Western Oregon University to move part of the project back to Monmouth, and that their proposition was to split the project, having some of it existing in Dallas, some of it potentially existing in Monmouth. I don't have any additional information. I did ask for more at the time, and none was given. This puts the Homeless Alliance at an interesting crossroads in future meetings, because these funds, if there isn't a direction for these funds, these are emergency order funds that were designated through the MAC groups that were created by the governor's emergency order. So if these funds aren't utilized by communities somewhere, they just go back to the state's general fund. So there is some time pressure here. I've asked for additional information, and as soon as I receive that, I'll present that back in a council meeting here. I do appreciate the added energy and the added interest in this area. This is an area that does have great impacts on our community. That concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor McKeel, and then Councillor Obers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to report about the library board meeting, which was last week on March 13th. Great news, the automatic door openers are coming soon. They're actually getting bids now. And this is going to be great because right now the restroom doors can't be opened if somebody is having difficulty with mobility. So we're looking forward to having those automatic door openers. Another thing to look forward to in the library, this is just a meeting, this is minutes of good news here. The Library of Things is coming. We'll soon have webcams, DVDs, CDs ready to be loaned out. So if you want to do extreme sports, you will soon have a webcam you can put on your helmet. Maybe not extreme sports. Anyway, just also there was a report by the library director that she's examining the collection, and because it's budget time, so she's really trying to use our public monies the best to explore or to use data to determine, like, if there's a magazine that's no longer getting used and we're not going to continue to purchase it. So she's doing the hard work protecting the public money. And I just wanted to do a shout out to the library staff with a lot of the difficulties that people are having in their lives now. It often shows up at the library, and our library staff are doing a really wonderful job working with people whose lives are difficult, and they're helping them get help and find a place in the library as well. So we have a really wonderful library staff. Coming up activities, we have April 4th is the discussion of the houselessness with Jaquil Charisse Davis. April 13th is gardening for wildlife with the OSU Master Gardener, Stephanie Hazen. April 18th is a book discussion of The Gown, an historical novel about the creation of Queen Elizabeth's wedding dress. So the one you won't want to miss. And then April 25th is the Get Lit Book Club meeting. And Phyllis, I have this listed here, so I'll just give it to you after the meeting. And that concludes my really fun report.
It's a lot of great variety of activities. Go ahead, Councillor Obers.
very short. We have concluded the tree planting contest. It was really easy because we had 10 slots and only 8 applicants, so all 8 of them will be rewarded with trees. Next tree board meeting is this Thursday, so we'll start working out the details and reaching out to those folks who did apply and determining what and where they will be getting pudding. So we'll have that squared away soon. I'll let you know how that progresses. Thanks.
And Planning Commission was canceled. So I would also like to point out, I did have the opportunity to greet so many of our board and commission volunteers here. And many of you were able to attend as well. And that was really fun to get to see them for the volunteer recognition dessert and thank them for their work and really hear from the committees themselves about the work they're doing. So that was awesome. And thank you, Phyllis and Sabra. I know you two did a lot of work to get that put together, and it was really an awesome event. So thanks to our board and commission volunteers. All right, and that takes us to our city manager's report. Christy Worster.
I just have a short list tonight. Let's see. Well, we're on a roll. Staff got another grant, and I want to congratulate Carter Craig, our city planner, who was successful in obtaining a grant from ODOT for an EV charging station, which we'll place here at City Hall. So really excited about that project, and that is in keeping with your council goals. So congratulations to you as well. Please join us tomorrow for Dress Like Fred Day. We're really excited to have our residents and people visiting Monmouth join us for a ride on the trolley as we dress like Fred Rogers. And thanks to the great idea from Councilor Belts, I think everybody's really looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone dressed up. Just to let you know, at our next meeting, we do have a proposal coming forward from Brant's for a rate adjustment in their solid waste fees. So be looking for that on our next agenda. I'll be reviewing their request over this next week, and you'll likely see that on your next agenda. Also, let you know, our police department is working on reaccreditation, which is a really lengthy process. And so they've been putting all the details together to make that happen for us, which is a really valuable process. And kudos to them for doing that extra work to really set our department above, head and shoulders above other departments in the state. Also, our Power and Light Director is submitting a grant for a solar project, which would be funded up to 100% by the state of Oregon for solar panels, which would be placed on the roof of the Power and Light building. So we're looking forward to that application and hoping that we're successful there as well. The Public Works Department notified me that the contractor will be on site this week for the crossing at Madrona and 99. So we'll get that flashing beacon in soon. And also to let you know that the City of Independence has the draft IGA for the formation of a governing body to oversee the trolley operations. And so once we have their comments back, we'll be reaching out to Western Oregon University. They would also be a member of that governing body, and that would ultimately come to the council in the future as well. And with that, that concludes my report for tonight.
Woohoo. All good stuff. Thank you. All right. At this point, then, I would like to announce the beginning of our executive session for Tuesday, March 19, 2024. The City Council will now meet in executive session for the purpose of discussing employment of a public officer. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.662A and ORS 192.667 to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. It is not anticipated we will be taking any action this evening after returning from executive session. With us tonight allowed in our executive session are, of course, legal counsel Lane Shetterly, our interim city manager Christy Worster, our city recorder Phyllis. Are you staying or going? You don't usually stay, no? You do usually stay, yes. And Scott Dadson from the Willamette Valley Council of Governance to help us with this. And is Zach going to stop the recording?